you ever get employed?
No, and that's why I'm telling you mentally, in terms of mental fortitude, because he stayed all those years, and he's not fallen into alcoholism. He's not had cases of cheating on my mom. Just those things which men do when they're frustrated. He's stayed. When I look at a good man, I look at my dad. And anasema, hey, this is a man of principle. Therefore, if he tells me things, because when he's trying to even correct me, he says, and he used to share me and he say, umainiona nikifanya hii kitu. I'm like, hapana. Iko Nini.
Episode 337, tukisema like, subscribe, hit the notification button, tell a friend to tell a friend. Na leo tuko na ule mse, na majuzi nilikuambia that if you were to have some leaders, ningemchagua. Then I saw him saying, we don't need leaders. But tutakuwa tukiingia kwa story, tuko na KASMUEL. But before that, wacha ni kuremind kuwa Olympics ziko GoTV, na GoTV kona 6 dedicated channels for the Olympics. Na uzabaki umeenjoy games zote. This past weekend mekuwa nikienjoy games farasi. But I saw like you used to be a swimmer. You still swim?
Still swim, yeah.
Yeah. Could you have gone to the Olympics somewhere?
No, labda team C.
Yeah.
Unajua kuna watu wenye samaki kwa maji.
Haukuwa fish hivyo?
Nilikuwa, it was decent, but I'm out of practice. I've not been, and swimming is intense.
Because you know another guy who used to be a swimmer like you?
Right.
Nicky Big Fish.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that's why he got his name, Nicky Big Fish.
Oh man,
people used to call him a fish.
We need to do a challenge, like anyone sana za niaibisha bana. Hata ni prank alafu niaibishe.
Big Fish. Umesikia?
Chani nifanye zido.
Local Olympics. Yeah, so vile tunasema Olympics go TV, unzabaki mpata Go TV Plus for 999 shillings only. Pia kuna the higher packages Max, Super na Super Plus. Na mimi nimekuwa nikiwatch na look forward to. I saw like a video that Omanyala did,
right?
And he said that people are writing him off because a lot of us expect that guy called Noah Lyles, you know.
Yes. The States guy.
But
I'm putting my money on Omanyala.
Yeah, Omanyala is saying he's not going there for like a participation. He's going there to win.
But also, like, if you see the stats, he's pretty close to those guys, to the fastest guys.
Yeah. I was watching a certain guy, Wakitambo, I think he's called Michael Johnson. You know him?
Right.
He was saying that according to him, if Omanyala could just lose a little bit of the muscle, that's what keeps him kidogo tu nyuma. Like aki lose the right amount, not too much, just the right amount of muscle.
Akuje tu maandamano moja tu. Kama pige moja hivi. Akwe fastest man in the world.
Yeah, itabaki
msaidia sana. Still putting my money on Omanyala for sure.
Yeah, of course. Lazima. Yeah. So msahau kuwa Paris 2024 iko kwa GoTV.
Iko Nini.
Alafu before pia tuendelee, a great admirer of you anaitwa Rapture the Scientist. Unajua Rapture?
Unajua Rapture?
Yeah, lazima niulize.
What do you mean?
So stand up ya Rapture imetokea. Wasonza baki umeipata kwa ikonini.live. It's 500 shillings only. So make sure umesupport hiyo raya isiyo ya kawaida. Inaitwa Rapture the Scientist. He did a very funny set about Ruto.
Yeah.
Even before history yote ya Ruto. Like the way even he starts na hiyo story. Right. Was like Ruto nini mbaya na huu mse? Then you hear just the whole crowd is and this was in December last year.
Right,
so I think a lot of us have been seeing the bullshit through Ruto for some time. And it only took the protest to now push it to the next level. Right. Also notice umsana nini. But so wacha tu ruke kwa show. Tuko na KASMUEL McOURE.
Let's go.
Hii nako ilikuwa inanisumbua till nisikie ukinini cuz nilikuwa nafikiria hiyo Ure sound jina ya kichaka.
Right.
Then he Mark. Ashindwa ile kama makonyanga.
Actually that's it.
You know,
kabla wakikuwa samanga wa dongo wa whatever.
Yes. So when you explained it I was like alafu sasa of course lately people have been complaining about politicians dressing up. So lazima nikuulize luku ni pesa ngapi jo? Acha tuone jo. Are you cause from your look man you look rich.
Luku ni bure. Luku ni Bwana Yesu. Luku ni neema. Luku ni bure. Unataka nifanye nini? No, I make suits. So we I have a suit company. We have stuff from 15K whatever. Yes.
Okay, you actually make suits because it's good because I think I was having this conversation. I don't know who we are having this conversation with. I think it was Jemole Mse. And I was saying like the worst thing about wearing expensive clothes is you have to tell people how much for them to know you've spent more.
Right.
Because with your look like mtu akikuangalia
Yeah.
hii ni suti proper like
Right.
I've never seen one of your suits and be like that looks cheap.
Yeah.
You always look really good. So for you to say that alafu tusikie Murkomen anatuambia amevaa tai ya 15,000 shillings, you understand?
To be fair, like suits are cheap, and that's my philosophy. I just don't publicize that business as much because I hate the whole consumerism thing of the market.
Yeah.
Like I met this director one time, and he was like, "Oh man, that's a very good suit that you're wearing. Who's that?" He mentioned one of the big names, and I was like, "No, this is me." He was like, "How much?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "This much." And he was like, "Oh no, you're not ready for me. But get me a card from the car." And I think people are used to that kind of stuff. I'm like, no. First of all, I'm here for recreation. Okay. So that, no, for me, I'm not big on CGO. It's very expensive. If you get very good fabric is where now things get expensive because depending on if you're doing cotton, if you're doing wool, the super numbers and whatnot. That's what makes, and of course the labor, the time that's put into the suit. But for me, clothing doesn't have to be expensive at all.
So you're the one who actually does the labor ama someone else does it?
I know I have someone else who does it.
Okay.
Yeah. That's... For me, it's I take the measurements, designs, we discuss those kinds of things, concepts and whatnot. Also because I do a lot of things.
Okay.
I can't sit on the sewing machine.
Najua. So how did you find yourself in suits? Like
trauma
like
response. Nilikuwa
making
mbaya nikiwa mtoi, and then when I was in Campo, I used to shikanisha the clothes. But then I was at a point where I wanted to design, like for example, if I as a swimmer I have fairly larger thighs than kawaida jamas, so like I found clothes where they would fit my waist, but then you find that the thighs are kidogo, so I like slightly baggier pants, and I was like, anytime you get clothing to alter them, I was like, then I could just figure out a way. And that's how I got into suits, and I said I love suits. I know a lot about suits and fabric, so I might as well do it.
Because one thing I've noticed about like the American, these big guys in States, when they start something, they give it their names.
Yes.
So even like tukiwa watoi, when we had Boeing, we didn't know like Boeing was literally someone's name.
Mercedes-Benz.
Yes. Ford.
Yes.
So suits zako ushazipatia jina, are they called KASMUEL,
ushazipatia
McOURE?
jina mazendi, you won't believe it. McOURE bespoke.
I think McOURE, just that is enough.
Right,
you don't
it
even
is.
need the bespoke.
Yeah.
I just need that. So mtu anaipataka umeiweka pale
kupatia hiyo tag uko ndani, but unajua ukiweka suit hapa, when you're wearing a suit, and I see this as a mistake that a lot of gentlemen make, you're wearing maybe like a top dollar brand and you leave the thing hapa usiache, hiyo ni ushamba. Anyone who wears good suits, it doesn't want to, like someone will see the construction, the form of a suit and be like, oh yeah, good suit, don't need to see the brand.
Because the funny thing about it is I thought it's only Kenyans who make that mistake about Africans.
No.
Till I saw it in some Hollywood shit, someone was wearing that, then mtu anawambia like, hey Buddha, you have to remove that, you have to so I think it's one of those things ile tunakujaga kujua baadaye.
Yes.
So like when you had anaitwa nani Murkomen talk about wearing a tie ya 15k,
it really doesn't faze me. Mi kwangu, whatever you wear, as long as it looks good, the price does not matter, because a lot of the stuff, a lot of the good pieces of clothing, of jewelry that you will find is probably thrifted. You'll find it secondhand, or it's hand-me-downs. Even the people who wear the most bespoke suits, even if you look at the Italians, to some point they push it such that even chaffing of the shirt, the collar, that's a sign of a good shirt. While we unakanga hivi unaona shirt imeanza kuchubuka hapa, unafeel zizi hiyo ni ushamba. Like the people who actually wear bespoke clothing, and like people who actually wealthy, they don't really care about it, and it's the same pressure that we usually put on ourselves yenye lazima nivai. Quite literally, I used to dress up fairly well in campus. Kona ingia gikosh napata shati ya pata mbwenya sijui trouser ya 300 400 mbwenya ya 600, those kinds of things. So for me it has never, whatever you tell me about how you dress, I know I could put together a better outfit with a fraction of the money. This has never been about the money for me. It's about style, and style is not pegged on the economic aspect of it.
Because I always say that like I love affordable stuff. So I'm the sort of person who, if I can get something for 1,000 shillings next week, and this week I have to pay 2,000,
Dangoja next week. That's everyone. Even the richest people that we know, we usually see them hunt for discounts and whatnot. This is the same as like a kinyozi experience. Unajua vizuri huyo mtu hapo kwa kona yenyu atakunywa na wanchwani. Tao utaenda unyolewa na 1,200. the days when I have 120, I'll go to this guy. Days when I have the 1200, I'll go to that guy in West Yotao.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, so for me, it's never been, it's just a consumeristic thing which everyone is sucked into, and all of us now are trying to play games and show bands. And I think it's also from musical culture. You know, when hip hop was very big, it was all about flossing.
Yes.
Yeah, but you realize the things that really matter, you can't floss about. The love that you have for your children, you really can't floss about. It's the intangible things, because I want to get a good car, but so that it can take me to my friend's place.
Yes.
So it means the car is not the thing. It's the friendship that matters. So for me, it's never been about the material at all.
Okay. And of course, like one side that we discover about you that's strange is the fact that you're a musician, yes?
Yeah.
So how many instruments can you play?
I play a bunch, man. I play so many. There could be 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tutaje kadha?
Piano.
Like your favorite? Ni gani?
Piano and trumpet. Those are my two favorite ones. Just in terms of sound, I like the way they sound. But it's piano, trumpet, euphonium, baritone, horns, saxophones, and saxophones are a bunch, like E flat, B flat, soprano, clarinet, violin, viola, cello, those kinds of things. Drums, a bit of drums, guitar, super easy. Just anything that I have touched, I know how it works, because I also write for those instruments, and I don't want to write from a point of ignorance.
Okay.
For me, music is just like reading. It's like, how many books have you read? It's an iffy comparison, but that's the way it looks like in my head, because I'm like, if I've touched it, I've taken a bit of interest in it, so therefore I can find my way around
So
it.
how do you find yourself playing all these instruments while coming from humble background?
In a bush. This happens at Alliance High School. I was admitted to the Alliance High School, what Thursday? I forget. I know it was a Thursday, because as a tradition, Bush opened on Thursdays in 2011. And I was always curious about music and music instruments in primary school, but unajua mimi ni SDA. So you'd find that was a sacred possession of the church, like uko mbele watoto hawaruhusiwi kushika. So when I got to Bush, you find that there's a whole chapel that has a piano that's not been locked. So I sat down and taught myself the songs. But then also, as I was navigating my high school experience, it got to a point where now the inferiority complex kicks in. You're like, oh, I'm from a poor family. So you have to find a way that you'll find something that makes you stand out. I usually say, if I had the chance to go to Bush again, or to high school again, I would have done it the way Kalis did. The Kalis especially the Kalis that came from humble backgrounds, au majamaa walikuwa tu,
they were simple.
Yani walikuwa simple, walikuwa grateful. It was enough. They were grateful for every other day, and they did quite well. I have a friend. It's a mayor. It's called Ezra. Ezra was a genius. Of course, kila mtu Bush alikuwa mnoma. But this jamaa comes from sijui wapi uko kale, anashrab jina yake, ameingia hii place. And I would say we were almost the same person. But sasa mimi nilikuwa na mask. Yeye aliingia hiyo place, akalan, first of all alifanya French na electricity. Electricity ilikuwa subject kong sana.
I did electricity. Hata KCSE nilifanya electricity.
Man.
So
najua watu walikuwa wafanya elek walikuwa sewa kong. Sasa yeye alifanya sijui comp elek na French. I think alianza na elek alafu ikamboa akaenda French, or the other way around. And akaingia, unapata ni tuko form 1 third term. Unaka hivi, because we were allowed to have radios. Ukizungusha hiyo tuner hadi certain frequency, unasikia tu jamaa tunabonga kikale. Yani wali practice hadi kuiba frequencies. Kwa like kuna frequencies hazitumiki, so tunaweza kaanga hapa tuongee tu, tunapata tu, okay, so guys, my name is tuko form 1. Na wase walikuwa wanoma hiyo chuo. But the thing which I would have done is ningeji accept. Alafu niseme, now I'll go for scholarships or whatever, because they were available to us, and not lose that goal. They had a very, and I'm saying Calais specifically because I looked at it from a social perspective. They had a very firm sense of grounding, that it was not about the material for them. It was about whatever it is, the value they get, and whatever they can go and take back to their communities. So now that's how I would nini that experience, where now I bring in music. So for me, music comes in as a coping mechanism, and not as a line of interest. So when I go into it, I'm like, this is the thing which I found my niche, and it's a niche I'm dying with. Because to be fair, outside of all these things, I'm a damn good musician.
Yeah,
Like even in this country, I can hold my own. Kabisa, as a composer, as a songwriter, as a, like I could sit down and pen a thing. I could sit and write for orchestras, because that's another part of me that people don't know. I have a whole big band and I have an orchestra, and I churn out music. If I sat down in a room for 30 minutes, I'll churn out something. So those are things which I'm reaping right now from my high school experience, from sitting down for endless hours, understanding how does this work, how do you write for these kinds of things. So for me it was a coping mechanism, but also I was very passionate about it.
Okay, because even when you talk about writing for the orchestra, it reminds me of like one of watu metoka nao chuo moja ni alma mater.
Yes.
So one of them ni Helon,
right?
And
the saxophonist.
It was at Starehe.
Yes.
And he created his wealth basically through that. Like just playing the saxophone. So much wealth that lives in Karen. Karen is not... Understand?
Absolutely.
Okay, pia uliishi Karen. So but tutabonga juu yake.
Si Karen. Karen si.
Yes. So tutabonga juu story ya Karen. But even before, vile umesema like ikikam to music you can hold your own. It reminds something that I was following up on. I don't know, like a few days ago. There was this post that nani alitumia mpaka nikasema unajua nikikusikiza one of the things that I admire about you is your vocab. Alikuwa utumiaga vocabulary na niko like, you know what, that's interesting, because I always make jokes about my dad. So my dad was that typical Luo.
Proper.
Wale wa Jack
Let me introduce to thee my progeny.
So nakunga kuna time moja ile like kuna mode alikuwa ananienjoy. Aniambia your dad came here and used the word that I never used before. I had to like go look for a dictionary. So what I Buddha make alikam kwake alafu akamwambia like I was perusing too. That's the first one is killed in a peruse. Like so kuna conversation fulani ya kina Buddha. I still remember it till today. Was my dad and my uncle walikuwa naongea. Alafu uncle yangu anaambia Buddha like Nathi Kanyo, like I went there and I threatened him. But then he warned me. So it stayed with me because there's a difference between a threat and a warning. Yes. But now there's this word openaga kutumia, disabuse.
Right.
So nikamwa since in Iko Nini and you talk bullshit, lazima ningekuuliza umesikia histo nini nani posted something Otile Brown, and it looked like he was dissing BN,
right?
Alafu ikafanya msekami nikasema like ile like ingekuwa sijui kitu kani niko like anaitwa nani he Otile dis then abused then abused BN so
threatened then warned.
Yes. So now history ya Otile and BN, if you are as a musician, if you are to pick a side, whose side would you lean on?
There's no side. I think what that is showbiz. Otile is one of the biggest artists in the country. Bruh. Like let's give it to Otile Brown. BN as well. So I think it's just
to musicianship now. Ile Iko Nini
again and najusa mi naangalianga music very differently. That's why I don't participate in these online discussions, because I think people approach music in a very stupid way. In the sense that unasikia mtu akiongelea bongo vibaya and I'm like, bruh, one of the hardest bops I've ever had like just from East Africa is a bongo song. Just on the musicality, and it's a it's like a Ninogeshe. Ninogeshe has such a drag to the beat. If you deconstruct it as a musician, there's a way the beat lands just when it's about to end, and it's you can compare it to like a French writer called Stromae. Stromae does also like those kinds of things. So for me, in my head, I'm like, I can't participate because a lot of people, and this is going to sound hella proud, but I'm like, the way people discuss music in the online space is very mundane, and I'm like, I can't participate because this is child's play. So because if I look at Otile Brown's music and BN's music, one, it's unfair to compare them because they do different genres. Two, if I were to go deeper, if we flipped their producers, we'd have totally different emotions. Just depending on what it is that you're going for. Both of them are heroes in my books. I resonate with BN more in the sense that Sauti Sol is a group we used to sing for our chicks when we were in high school. But bro,
because I think even like another thing I need to make clear is Otile didn't come out clearly,
right?
But you could see because he talked about this musician who wasted an opportunity while working with Inda.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I guess it was Prince
yeah,
Inda.
yes.
And then kwa comments, one of the reasons why I was asking you is this. Kwa comments, someone said, Otile, you might be good, but you never reach the level of musicianship of Bien because your live performances are not there. And I don't know if you've watched the two of them on stage.
No, I have, and I think
Bien is
Bien is an
Saudi
animal
soul.
for sure.
That's an experience.
Yeah.
Otile on the other side, mtu anakuwaga like, you're Otile Brown.
But
It
what
needs
is
to be,
what is musicianship really? It's not about the performance, is it?
no, the performance is important.
It's
Buddha,
just
kuna kuwaga na ile yako tu ile tunakuonaga like
for
you
sure.
get obsessed. You get possessed.
But utapata kuna msee mwenye ananisikia na anafikiria mimi ni mkuu na anasikia Adele pia.
Yeah. See, but Adele, you see, Adele performs on stage. You understand that?
But does she dance?
I think that's the mistake.
We're talking about like the vocal range and whatnot.
Because Otile, normally it's playback.
Yeah.
And when it's not playback, he's very rigid on stage.
Right.
You see, if you're rigid and it's not playback, we understand. Because we have people who are very wild on stage, like Zuchu, for example.
And Diamond, man. Diamond is a beast.
Yes, but now for me, for Diamond, the problem I have is I didn't come to watch you dance. I came to watch you sing. So I don't need this playback shit.
I mean, again, that's the other end, which I could have pushback on. It just depends on what it is that you're looking for. Because kuna msee mwenye atasikiza cover ya Otile hata ikiwa sijui imemixiwa aje na DJ. So I think about it as almost as if trying to say this person is more eloquent than this person.
Okay.
So in my head, I hate those comparisons because I'm like, first of all, we've in terms of eloquence, so I'll tie that to like musicianship. Someone feels as though if you don't have inflections that come from like the local dialects, that you're more eloquent.
Yeah.
Bro, I know really smart people who have like a bit of the
accent.
influence, and in my head, that sounds so good. There's a babe called Nagami Masaha. There's quite recently in this mandamano, there's a comrade called Comrade Kenuvia Wandongo. Speaks, bro. Listen, Akina Wanjira, Akina Masimasai, Akina. There are so many people who speak, and I'm like, man, these guys are smart.
Yeah.
So like with those kinds of things, it's the same thing where I would be like, it's not, the vocal quality is not the same, and the work of music is to portray emotions using sound, because a painter paints on a canvas or on a wall, the musician paints on silence. So for me, it's never been necessarily about how do you sound. It's about, are you able to convey an emotion that I know of into song. So I would, if I look at them, I'm like, it's first of all unfair to compare them. It's unfair because Bien also, remember them being in a boy band, they were very heavily leaning onto the side of live performances as compared to Otile, who did most of his work on studio. So we find another person and we could compare maybe and say, there's places where Bien would shine more, there's places where Otile would shine more.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this means that for you, as we disabuse
ourselves of the idea that we can critique music effectively.
Yes. Yeah. So kwako inamaanisha the live element does not play so much, because this is what I've been when I've talked about Diamond, Mubongajo, the fact that I feel he'd be a bigger global star. He's very big. Like Diamond is huge, but he'd be bigger if he worked more on his live shows. Because if you look at Diamond's tickets when he goes abroad, he struggles to sell tickets. And at some point, when Akina Nasema Nawe came out, you remember that song?
Yes.
He used to pack.
Yeah.
But then people noticed this guy comes to do playback, alafu he just dances on stage.
I think he would be.
So they never, because if you've watched Adele, like use Adele as an example, Adele will even stop, have a conversation, curse, then hit a note, then sing. That, so we come for that experience.
Right.
Like even one of my favorite musicians, I don't know if you've listened to him, is called Jacob Banks.
Okay, no. Okay, I haven't. Now I have a person to add to my...
Yeah, so Jacob Banks, he'll never do the same performance. Like the song, the way he does, he has a hit called Unknown.
Yeah.
The way he does Unknown today, the way he does it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Totally different.
Absolutely.
But he might put it kule juu kabisa.
Yeah.
So when you go to a concert, alafu it's playback, especially such a big artist, you're there like, damn, man, this is...
It's true, but Diamond would be a bigger star if you are a white man, if we're just going to be honest. He's not going global because he's black.
No. I tell you, hiyo nita argue hiyo ni juu ya Sauti Sola wanapack concerts, wanapack halls wakiwa huko. Who else? Of course Burna Boy na akina Wizkid. People can use English, but they speak very little English,
Right.
so we can't use that as an excuse. I just feel like for him, the fact that he never performs live, he just dances. I'm not coming for the dance. I'm coming for the voice.
Okay.
Like, for me, he's a great singer. Like, I've had people talk shit like, oh, Ali Kiba is better.
Yeah.
I feel like they're both at the same level. But Ali Kiba performs.
Okay.
Mbosso performs.
Okay.
Diamond, Rayvanny,
so basically
Zuchu is even worse.
Was a type record.
Yeah, like
side.
Zuchu does nothing on stage.
Yeah.
I've never seen a Nandi. Really? What wajui ni Nogesha is a Nandi.
Yeah,
song.
it's a Nandi hit.
I've never seen Nandi, but for me, that's the reason why Kenya beats TZ hands down is live concerts. Like, have you seen the images coming from Blackets and Wine? It's like crazy. It's
Yeah,
like,
but you could argue that also TZ has some very heavy hitting artists just in terms of performance. Brother.
But now sasa akina Saida Karoli
wako still no like
kukuchu
but no I see if you think about it because you have to look at it holistically even nitaka hivi chini niseme it's like someone saying Tanzania has better gospel music than Kenya.
Yeah
I'm just
saying live performance.
Yeah, we just see more of them on YouTube. They've invested more in showing us their live performance aspect, and you would see that we are also borrowing a lot. I think when they got into the industry, they focused on the thing that generated most revenue for them.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure that if Diamond said that I want to work with a live band, like he would hit. And I know this because we play Diamond songs in our live gigs, meaning that he's generating hits that can be played live.
Yes. And that's I think tuna agree on that.
Yeah. I see the convergence. You feel like it would be bigger.
The only problem ni saizi ukiniambia McOURE sings Diamond live on stage.
Itaja.
Niambie Diamond sings Diamond. Si ati itaja. Mi nitakuja kwa yako because I know you're going to perform.
Okay.
Him, I know he's going to play me the same shit I have at home, but they dance on stage.
I see what you mean, but also remember, just to give it a bit of pushback. At some point, that was the hottest thing. People wanted that, like that Jason Derulo, Chris Brown type thing. And Diamond can really hold his own against these people. But like I've seen him live do that whole thing.
But they perform.
But to be fair, for sure. But to be fair, also, if you're performing and this is, let's not isolate the dance from the singing.
Yes.
The singing is just one aspect, very small aspect, because he's an entertainer as well. So it has to be flashy, it has lights. And if you're doing those kinds of moves, your vocals could be distorted. So he looks, I think my reasoning would be, and I'm saying this is a live musician, would be, it would be harder for you could distort the vocals with the dance. So I'm like, I would rather compromise this. I'm not advocating for, if you say it's a live music concert, please live. For the love of God, come and sing live. But I also extend a bit of grace. Okay, so I never, that's why I never go into that direction.
Then utakuwa very good politician.
I mean watu wanakaa hivi wanafikiria I just fell off the ground, man. Buddy, how did I win campus politics? People look at me and they tell me stuff, and I'm just like, oh, you really think I'm new at this politics thing?
Okay.
Yeah, so I was a student leader. I've won elections in campus. Took.
Technical
Kenya Poli Kitambo, yes.
Okay.
So I won elections against very, very like severe opponents. Same dragging that happened to me on Twitter recently is the same thing I saw in campus politics.
Yes.
So when it was happening, I was like, been there, done that.
Yeah.
So
well, because trying to get to the politics,
of course,
we'll talk about
much later,
the kidnapping, because and the bullshit that it brought. Because I remember watu walikukujia kabisa. But before that, nilikuwa nataka tuanze na hizi vitu.
No worries.
So wacha to go back to, there's something tumeongea hapo mbeleni about Kales accepting themselves. And this is something I saw pia mimi nikiwa mtoi. Kwa sasa sisi, what happened is I went to Starehe, yes? And kuna mseta kuwa like, Starehe lazima aseme zi, there's a reason why tunabonga J story. And with Starehe, I didn't feel, I was not ashamed of the poverty as much as I was when I was at a certain school called St. Patrick's. So St. Patrick's...
Go back to Starehe kidogo.
Yes. So Starehe...
Why want you...
I was not as ashamed because Starehe had two types of people. Kulikuwa na tunaitwa fee payers.
Yes.
Alafu kulikuwa na free student. So I was part of the free students. The ones who are
so
learning for free.
So you knew from the word go,
So tulikuwa wengi kabisa. So and alafu, even poverty levels, kuna vile Rapture usema kuna watu wako below the poverty line na kuna watu wako kwa poverty line yenyewe. So si tulikuwa kwa poverty line and there were people below. So with that there was always the thing of we are doing bad but not so bad. But then the funny thing was when I was outside Starehe.
Yes.
So because outside Starehe, now we're in a neighborhood. And in the neighborhood, people can see what your mother does. So my mom used to sell easy stones there, like pregnant women eat.
Zile za white.
So alikuwa na place pale Gikosh.
Yes.
And she'd want us to go there, like when we were on holiday. And I was always so ashamed.
Right.
Wacheki. Like nilikuwa ashamed because sometimes uko kwa hiyo, alafu kuna like a girl that you know from the neighborhood amekuja kutafuta nguo. So unauza mawe hii side, alafu kuna nguo hizi. So when you talked about your mom visiting you, because maybe let's go back to that. Wacha tuanze na hiyo part ya madhako kuvisit Alliance and then we'll go back to now poverty vizuri. So isiku, why does that day stand out? The day she showed up with bananas, ama?
No. The day that stood, the thing that made that day stand out for me is it's in retrospect. I would have spent more time with her.
Yes.
I would have actually told her, hey, maze mina skevi, because my mom has always found the simplest ways to explain very difficult things to me. And I would have understood poverty better because that day, and I never thought anything much about it, but afterwards, I came and saw that this woman gave me everything that she had. If she showed up with bananas, probably it's because that's all she would have afforded, you know. And so it was like a shame thing, which, and you know, life must be lived forward, but is only understood backwards. And so it was an understanding. So that's what makes that day. It never stood out for me in the past until it clicked after I was done. And I was like, yeah, she really did give her all. And I saw other people, you know, sit with their folks and whatnot. And like, I even sometimes would want to sit with other people's folks because, you know, they had like a car, they had like some nice seats and good food. It's a nice buffet. But I look at, man, you know.
Like chapati was...
meat, man. And pizza. I know Bush was very crazy. But I look at it nowadays and... man, I would rather spend time with my mom.
I know.
No matter how rich your mom is, your dad is. Nikipata chance hivi kidogo, I want to spend time with that mom of mine. And there's a time I had the chance to spend like entire days, entire holidays in her house and whatnot. But of course, now it's not gone because, we're very, very good friends. They come over to my house. I go to I very rarely go, but they come over to mine. And so... that's the thing, because nilika hivi nikasema it felt as though my parent was not parent enough. They were not enough of a parent for me to be seen around them. And then, you know, being an extrovert, you feel as though society expects. You know, that's the other thing, which we usually look at ourselves thinking that everyone's watching. So like when someone insults you, it hurts you. You feel like they go on their whole day, that's what they think. And especially in this media world. Mtu atasema kitu tu alafu akuache, aitupe iende hivyo. So I kept on thinking, they're going to think that you're poor. But I realized that I was not the only poor person. There was nothing special about my poverty. And if anything, there are people who are in that school who are poorer. But I don't know. I was a boy. I was a baby. There's a lot of things that I didn't understand. There's a lot of, you know... modalities of life, just the different intricacies and complications of life that I didn't understand way back then. So I felt, hivyo tu vile umesema mzazi wako alikuwa anauza mawe. At some point, when we moved to Kisumu, life got really, really hard, and like my dad opened like a little like biashara type thing, and alikuwa anapeleka vitu kwa hivyo na mkokoteni. Sometimes now he'd call us to help. So mazee nakaa hivi niko like mimi mtu wa Alliance, mazee nafuta mkokoteni. It felt, so those are part of the things which I look at and I'm like, these people actually gave me their all. It's just that what we had expected, and then now, you know, you're teenagers, you're comparing yourselves to everyone. Hollywood, to nini unafeel tu lazima nikwe Chris Brown, lazima nikwe nini, ziko huko juu. So that's why I usually think about it, and I tell anyone, if you're going through that thing, chill, relax. Like so many people are poor in Kenya. Even the statistic is shocking. Out of the, and I was keep on asking people, like out of everyone who's employed, what percentage do you think makes over 100,000? And everyone usually tells me, I think it's like 500,000 people or 1 million. No, under 100K.
Yeah.
So like I would tell anyone who's, and I know this is young people, I don't know what your viewership usually is like. We've always put a lot of pressure. Like they see me here and they feel like we're almost age mates. Why is he in a suit and whatnot? And like, is he driving and whatnot?
Yeah.
It's just life, time and chance happens to them all. Yeah, so that's what it was like for me. That's the thing that made the day stand out, is that I wasted a whole parent's day where I could have spent with my mom, and I went to play, just do all these kinds of things. And I came and saw her, because I also didn't see her much after that. She couldn't afford to come and visit me. That was the one visit after admission. That was the one visit I had with my mom, and I blew it in that high school. Yeah.
So vile umesema hivyo nini, had to check very fast. So our audience is 0.1%. 13 to 17. Those are kids.
Right.
19.8% 18 to 24. And of course I know 18 to 24 you still have that shame.
Yes.
If you're poor. Then 25 to 34. That's where 50% comes from. So it's your age.
Still, those are my group. People, man. And you know, sometimes tunaangalianga hivi life na film msee amesonga mbele. But a lot of people are just doing like really shady things in Nairobi. And nobody who's made money can tell you these are the tricks. Because if it's waking up early, all of us have woken up early at some point in our lives. All of us have had a CEO's lifestyle. Worse still, even for people who are in school in Nyanza who kept on waking up at 3, sleeping at 11. So huwezi niambia that CEO's the purported CEO, because sometimes
kuna kuangana ujinga.
Ati CEO was in the office, is in the office at 4. No, it's because he was snorting cocaine. And he couldn't change. He's not at crunching numbers. No, it's because, you know, so a lot of the time we usually feel as though our life has to be rushed, and that's part of the consumerism I was telling you about, where it feels as though kila mtu lazima kuenda the latest what and the brand, this is what I'm wearing, this is what I'm doing. I'm not such a huge fan. I don't care for it, because everyone wants to drive the latest car. You realize, man, the hedonistic thing, the moment where you think, oh, I want a car so badly, you get a car, a week in, you're just like, what the hell, bro?
To go bias remorse.
You know,
so there's also a part of that shit is bias remorse
kabisa,
and it happens with everything that you love. So mi nakuaga like to some degree I love electronics. So when I buy an electronic, I always have the fear, am I going to have bias remorse? So you go through that phase and you're there like but I think the reason why we share these stories, that they struggle and what our parents went through is because it's all part of the growth.
Absolutely.
Now when I look back, I listen to a lot of rap music.
Right.
And there's a new album metokea, this guy called Common. And Common says, I don't know a hustler greater than my mama. And I'm planning to do like a different podcast that I target Africa with, that's strictly English.
Right.
And I want the first episode to be about my mom. So I want to tell people the story about this woman who sold mineral stones. This woman who sold the weed at some point. Like my mother used to sell weed.
Allah.
And had the highest disdain for weed smokers.
Kabisa.
But like I saw the hustle, and also how she stayed with a man who basically struggled with alcoholism for a very large chunk of his life. Paka alcohol killed him, and she stayed loyal. And that at that point you can't see it. You can't see that this is a girl in her 30s. Till later in life, when you meet girls in their 40s and you see like these are young girls, these are girls who can still go out there. They don't have to be loyal to any man. So naweza taka sana kubonga juu hiyo, cause the poverty, man, like we were poor. She had to work 7 days a week.
Right.
Alafu hiyo time akikuja chuo, you are ashamed because she looks poor. We mwenye adole imefanya, you think everyone is watching you. No one is watching you.
Right. Nobody cares really.
Hakuna mtu anakucheki. So vile ulibonga jo story nilifindikiwa like super powerful. But another thing that I'd want us to talk about is, you talked about being expelled. So iza kwa se tunarukaruka. Tumeruka kwa utile, tumeruka. But that's Ikonini.
Follow.
So of course, one of the things, as I said, mubambikaga sana na kukusikiza ukibonga because like the vocab.
Right.
Kwa take place moja ulisema, I was an academic outlier. Meaning you used to excel in academics. That's what that means.
Yeah, absolutely.
So kama ulikuwa na fail, pia unazatumia
but yet any outlier kwa sababu, you know,
zizi unazatumia tu outlier. Academic malaya. Inamaanisha kitabu ilikuwa inanitomba. So
prostitute.
okay, so maybe hata wacha to rewind kabisa. Primo ulienda primo gani?
Primo mob mazee nilienda Our Lady of Peace pale hapo nyuma hapo Karen nyuma karibu na Shell.
Yeah.
Kwa hiyo soko.
So mkimove to Karen hii time uko
actually tulikuwa naishi Umo kwanza. Nilienda Simba Hills. I don't know if it was a daycare or a nursery school. Cheza na watu wengi nikafila watu wengi mafala. So mimi nikaenda to class 1. Then so Simba Hills from Umo. Then my dad had just lost his job. So we relocated somehow to that area in Karen. It's like a teen shack. Hata ikeja ni bigi. It's wider. It was like maybe till somewhere there. He had a bed, a couch, and then kulikuwa na kameza pale yenye kuna stove na kulikuwa na mitungi. Yeah, so it was Karen, yes, but ni Karen hiyo place ya masafara hapo ndani, you know.
Karen nenyu ilikuwa ile karibu na Donyo. Unajua Donyo?
Donyo uko ina feel ngong uko. Achana Donyo. Karen, like you just go up that before you fika Bulbul, Westwood actually.
Oh, okay.
Yes, get to Westwood where the Defense Staff College is. Unaingia huko kuna wazae, kuna watu wanoma hapo sana. Kuna like very rich people. But then there's like a little community. It's about maybe like 16 houses. 1, 2. Oh, it could even be 12. And then our Mabati house was at the end.
So I think then Nini, because I was wanted to explore your childhood in this like uko mbele. I think we can explore it right now.
Yeah.
So you come from a family of 5 kids, eh?
Yes.
But you lost 1 kid.
There was one hapo hivyo katikati ya mimi na sister yangu mwenye.
Boy, girl?
Hey, baby Lilian alikuwa tu mtoto wa mama yangu.
So it was a girl, eh?
Boy.
Lilian?
I think mamangu alimuita tu Lilian.
I
never really talked about that with my mom. It's just photos I found of like a baby, of a tiny coffin and a tiny cross. And my mom, I don't even know if this is okay, but she really never talks about it. Yeah. And I've never heard her talk about it. She just says baby Lilian. Of course, my mom's called Lilian. She never really has talked about. I've never heard her talk about it. So there's now a pal of mine who now talked about the child that she lost, and I was like, oh man, my heart goes out to you. Yeah, but if I were to talk about a person who's the most revolutionary person I've met, it's my mom. And like my mom in terms of existence, my dad in terms of the mental.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's the family.
Tuko na like some similar stories because my mom lost twins.
Oh man,
twin girls.
Yeah,
never talks about it.
Yeah,
but I've never asked.
Yeah, hata mimi.
So I feel like the next time nimeenda water, try explaining the concept of a podcast.
Yes.
People share these stories because of what? Because I'd want to know a few things about how she lost the twins.
Yeah,
what happened, and then my mom's birth Nini was interesting because them twin girls, them boy, twin boys, boy. Yes, so she gave birth to 8 kids.
Yes,
and now the worst thing is she's buried 4 kids.
Oh man,
you see,
like
that's why like
must be hard for a parent.
Like mona go to online like attacking women and what, and I look at my mother, I'm like, I met this person as a girl.
Yes.
So ni hard sana upata nimejoin that whole masculinity
to be fair, and I think it's a thing which it's a phase that a lot of people go through, and some people stay stuck because whatever, let's talk just masculinity, that red pill ideology, it shows you this is the nature. It's men who've gone through certain things and now they tell you this is what it is. You either choose to swallow it or you spit it out. And I also had like a red pill phase where I was very like macho. That's like maybe 2 years ago and whatnot. Like just getting out of that thing just before I can rise up and whatnot. And part of it is you can't get stuck there. You can't start blaming people because a lot of these people who are talking were born to single mothers. A lot of these people who are talking were born to like fathers who never stepped up to the plate, who are like drug addicts and whatnot. The exact kind of men that they're trying not to be. But like the mothers in this African society, the mothers really hold it down. They stay and they do whatever it is. So it's not something I would totally write off, but I wouldn't you use it as a lens. To say just the way tulikuwa nafanya nini high school, ukipatiwa blue black presence of starch. You can't use the same test for everything.
Yeah.
So for me, that's what I'd look at the red pill as, that whole masculinity thing. I'm like, you can't have it as a personality. It's like saying me, I'm a coffee addict or I'm a whatever. Just chill. It's one of the many ways you could look at the world and say, I see whatever is happening here is hypergamy. I see whatever is happening, because a lot of people take it and adopt it as a lifestyle.
Yeah,
I'm like, it's just it's like
I
saying
know.
lifestyle yangu ni histo ama ni CRE. Just it's one of the many subjects you could be interested in.
Upumbavu fulani. Of course, I think we'll talk about a lot of us being raised by single mothers.
Yeah.
I'd say even most people who have both parents, the mother ends up being like a lioness.
Right.
Have you ever checked the Lion Kingdom? It's the lioness that goes hunting.
Right.
The king stays.
Yeah.
So, and we'll talk about Kenyan politics, but Kenyan politics have disempowered the man so much that you have a lot of families where it's the woman who goes out.
Right.
And the man either stays at home, like that's very common. That's what ukienda place kama Gikomba, you'll find so many women with that ile story yao za kufunga pesa imefungwa kwa nini fulani.
Yes.
And that's because they've gone hunting, because maybe now the politics have zimemess mpaka now they're struggling with alcoholism, they're struggling with all that shit that has been normalized. So it's but nipo kama ulitoka from your red pill.
Mazini ilikuwa na cafes hapo, kuna relationship fulani ilienda segmege and I needed like
a way to vent,
a thing, and it came at the right time. Where, and you know what the red pill does, what it's supposed to do ideally, which I don't see it Nini for men, it calls you out. It has never been about the women. It's always been about maze, you make dumb choices, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. And I'm not saying that women are these perfect beings, because that's also like infantilizing them, because we also run the risk of saying, now the men are the logical ones, that the what. We're all like a blend of logic and emotions and those kinds of things. But a lot of people usually just look at the red pill and think, so that's what the women are. But you realize that anyone who's interacted with women, if you're good to women, they're good to you. As is with if you're good with money, it's good to you. If you're responsible generally, that's what it is. And it's the same as the women. But people get stuck here because, also as you've said, the politics has very greatly disenfranchised the man to the point where the man cannot control capital. The man cannot control weapons or whatever. What is it that they can control? Women. So they end up controlling the women, and then even if you dig deeper into the family structure, then the women end up controlling the children. Because we are always also kind of trying to exert power on the next weaker person. So I hate this whole thing where we're always trying to polarize society and also do those kinds of lines. Because we end up raising such horrible human beings who don't deserve it.
So now it's a family of five
kids.
You're the second kid. First kid ni dame
boy dame.
Okay. And then so your dad used to work for a publishing company. So the publishing company ni kitu nizataja
sidhani siko sure kwa sababu also
okay, it's okay.
It's one of those things, but it was one of the biggest publishing companies in the country.
Okay. So he loses his job. Hii time akilose job mnaishi wapi?
Tunaishi Umo. But I'm still a baby, I think this happens in maybe 2000. I was maybe 3 years.
Okay.
This happens maybe 1999 because I was 2 and my sister had not come. So
loses the job. Hii nyumba ya nini ushaiambiwa? Has it ever been described to you, like how big was it?
Nyumba ya Umo.
Bedroom, 2
nyumba ya Umo ilikuwa kubwa because kulikuwa na watu wengi. Ilikuwa na, just from how I recollect it, ulikuwa unaweza enda places, ulikuwa unaweza enda jikoni, unaweza enda pali pa kulala. Yani it wasn't the same thing. So clearly it could be a 2-bedroom or a 1-bedroom, because also we were a very small family back then. We were just 2 kids. It was just me and my big brother.
Okay. So loses the job. Do you know how long it took before move to placing in? Have you ever been told?
I can just calculate it. I know we moved into that placing in in 2000.
So just a few months.
So so I think when my dad was working, he set up a salon for my mom. They had businesses. Dad had a thing. He had a bookshop on the side. So I think those helped him stay afloat.
Because that's the interesting thing. Like when I talk about this, when I talk about these Kenyan politicians, I always say one thing that people don't realize is most businesses fail.
Yes.
And apart from businesses failing, a lot of businesses where you as the owner
Yeah.
is not 100% involved,
Right.
they end up failing.
Even faster.
So you'll find the fact that your dad was working
Yeah.
and the bookshop is a side hustle
Yes.
is the reason why when he lost his job,
Couldn't segue into it ati
Yes.
nini. Yeah.
cause kuna hiyo ni cause hapa unapataga mtu anasema I used to sell chicken.
Yeah.
You check their history, unaona huu mtu aliingia politics 92 akiwa kampo.
Yeah.
Alafu after kuingia politics akiwa 92 pesa zikaprintiwa around hiyo time.
Yes.
Anakuambia alitengeza billion na chicken. Nashindwa hizi ni chicken gani? Because chicken farming is hard. People make this thing look like it's simple. Ati nunua mayai tatu, utanunua mayai tatu na utaiuse.
Let me tell you, mini vegan, but I wanted to do that business after Form 4. We researched and we even got an incubator. We wanted to incubate chicks, tukachapa hesabu tukasema over this period. Kwanza tulinunua incubator ya 400 eggs. Beshte yangu mamake akanunua 12,000 eggs, tulisema tukihatch utu to chicks na hiyo time day old chicks zilikuwa zinauzwa I think 90 bob. Mapiga hesabu tunasema hata kampoa tuendi. Bro, kuku watakufa. Watu hawatanunua because they buy from names. It's you can't tell me.
Because apart from watu kununua kukufa, you just wake up one day and all the chicken are gone.
Infection.
Yes.
Feeds.
Alafu hizo kufa zote.
And then
mtu anakuambia alikuwa part time kuku farmer na ni billionaire.
Unamekaje billionaire na watu wenye wana make business full time?
Hawatengenezi hiyo billion.
I don't know, people don't understand, and a lot of people watch this thing and I hear people say they want to be billionaires. You're never going to be a billionaire. And ethically, it's very difficult for you to be an ethical billionaire. You got what churches. I don't even know. I don't believe there's an ethical billionaire. For you to get a billion of something, you can't do it ethically. Kuna mse ameexploitiwa pahali, kuna kitu iliibiwa, and you don't know or you're blind to.
It's some crazy shit.
Kabisa.
It's some crazy shit. So mka move kwa hii place. So place mlika how long
your place that Katin house. From class 1 I went to nursery and then I went to class 1. I remember I didn't do pre-unit things. So I did class 1, 2, 3. So I could say maybe 4 years, give or take.
4 years.
Yeah.
4 years. After who got the job? It's your mom.
It's my mom who got the job.
So what happened to your dad's career? Did he ever get employed?
No. And that's why I'm telling you mentally, in terms of mental fortitude, because he stayed all those years. And he's not fallen into alcoholism. He's not had cases of cheating on my mom. Just those things which men do when they are frustrated. He's stayed. When I look at a good man, I look at my dad. And anasema, hey, this is a man of principle. Therefore, if he tells me things, because when he's trying to even correct me, he says, and he used to share me and he say, umainiona nikifanya hii kitu. I'm like hapana. Umainiona nikikunywa pombe. I'm like hapana. Umainiona nikivuta sigara. Hapana. So we draw parallels from his life. It's not like trying to save you from a thing. So even recently when I had like an episode, I remember he told me one of the most profound things. He told me if there was one person who would have killed, and this even my mom told me on the side, there's one person who would have killed himself, is me. I'm like, life, I lost a very good job. I've not been able to pay for my kid, do the thing that other men do for their children, those expensive things that he used to be able to do for, even if it's for a short time. And it's like, I lost it all. And I would see how the court case dragged and whatnot.
Court case gani?
He had like the court case for where he was working. It really dragged.
He was trying to.
They were trying. I think they went to court for compensation or reinstatement. I don't know. It never worked out for them. It was. You would see it. So now, as a man, when I look at it, I'm like, yes, he had all the reasons. So I was telling him, to be fair, it's not that these things are happening to me mentally because I lack something. It's just because the brain has misfired. But I totally see that if we are to look for a reason and say that this is reason enough, he has all the reasons to be a horrible human being. Like his villain story should have started. But he's been fairly consistent in his religion, in his marriage, in his dealings. I know he's had chances. He could have had chances to do like corrupt things or things, but he's been a fairly upright man, and he's lived his entire life as I've known him in poverty. Because
I know that, like, when I look back, because I keep telling people that I really want to go sit down with my mom and ask her like about my dad, because there's so many stories of this guy who in his youth tried so many things.
Yeah.
And then at some point, he just couldn't get a job.
Yeah.
And with him now, it pushed him to alcoholism.
Right.
And that ended up being like the reason why he died. And that's the reason why I don't drink.
Mm.
So me nakuaga ile like, I saw, also the sins of the father shall visit the children. So I'm there like, most probably this shit is in my blood. I start.
Right.
Nimeenda.
Yeah.
Because one of the things nilisikia ukisema ni anything that you do, you don't have us.
Mimi naendanga yote.
Pia mi nakuaga 100%. Nakuaga hivyo like nikiingia kwa kitu ni
yeah.
So najuaga.
I even saw how disruptive Iko Nini was.
Yeah.
Like muliingia tu, lighting was shit. But mulikuwa mnachapa episodes, nilikuwa naangalia show, niko like
yeah.
And look at you guys now.
Look,
angalia kitu.
Lazima kuzuki have us vitu jo utakuaga there are opportunities in life utamiss out on. Na kuna so mi nilikuwa najua hata nikiingia kwa alcohol I'd have gone 100%.
Yeah.
So now tukigo back to so hii place mko Karen akapata mother alipata job
Nakuru.
Nakuru.
She went
So Nakuru
to work with tukamove. First of all tulimove place inaitwa STEM. STEM is just before you get into, as you're getting into Nakuru, there's like a park. It's not Manyani, but like Nakuru National Park. Not huku nyuma. It's an animal thing.
Yes.
Yeah, so hapo hivyo STEM. And then after STEM we moved into, when I was in STEM was I going to school? You know, also there's a time we didn't go to school for a while.
Okay. Because hakuna do.
Yeah, tukakaka home kiasi. And then now we moved into like Kitty, section 5-8. Tukaingia place inaitwa Kitty. Then I was enrolled into a primary school that's called St. John's. Now St. John's now, and I see consistently there are people who sowed in my well-being. My formative years, there's a person, I don't know what he was called. Was he called Mr. James or whatever? He was such a good French teacher. And I remember alinifundisha wimbo ingine hapo ya French. Ikafanya ni take such a keen interest in that language.
Yeah.
Consistently I've had beacons of language, people who made me such an amazing linguist. It was unparalleled.
Okay.
So now when I get into St. John's, I find a very good principal, a very good teacher of English, and a very good teacher of Swahili. I'm unbeatable, bro, at that time. Kuzungumza sijui kufanya nini. Kabisa. So I go into St. John's. Then post-election violence now is what displaces us.
Okay. But before bungejua post-election, nikotaka kujua mukimove Nakuru, what sort of house is it? Is it bigger than the...
It's bigger, yes. Most definitely bigger. We move into a one bedroom. We move into a one bedroom. My mom is an accountant. She was an accountant. She's an accountant. And I think that's why I usually keep on saying my mom has been my greatest inspiration, because even without knowing, I just ended up following it in her footsteps.
Okay.
Because that's what I ended up studying. I ended up studying the same course, because now even how she came to study afterwards, I remember we were in uni right about the same time. So she graduated 2 years before I did. So assignments, sijui nini, watu wako sijui comrades, mi niko na mama yangu. Like, nipe hizo notes zako. Sijui iko kwa exam nifanye nini. Yeah, so we had like that fun chance to be students together. So so she was an accountant. She was working in finance. She was working with I think Kenya Pipeline Company at the time, or National Oil, I don't know, whatever. Yeah.
Okay. So kwani what's tuangalia both your dad's education level, your mom's education level?
So at the time, I think my dad he finished in Form 6 and then pursued higher education, maybe kidogo. And my mom later just came to pursue her degree much later. Like we joined uni together. So I think that's part of what made my dad very keen on education, because he was like, this is the only thing I can bequeath my children, because he saw it as the liberator.
The great equalizer.
At least give you guys a fighting chance. And he was very deliberate about his education. Me, all my smarts, I can't owe it to another teacher. My mom for the vocabulary and whatnot, my dad for the assertiveness. Like I was more homeschooled than I was schooled in these other departments in school. So school was just a formality. Go there, get the certificate, come back.
Kuzina reminded my mom. My mom, I think, she always says it. She says she's a class 3 dropout.
Yes.
And she joked that during her time, she had to stop going to school so that her brothers could go to school. So it's a very funny thing. Like I think apart from last born, wakina Madhe, the rest never finished school. The girls. So they went to school. Then at some level they had to be pulled out. wanaachia
Yeah.
mabro lakini
Yeah.
mabro ao
Yeah.
like mabro wake wote they all went to school,
Right.
so it shows you how that time was different.
Yeah, yeah.
But even with this level of education musemaga like multiplication,
Yeah.
I still remember it vizuri kabisa because she's the one who taught me.
Yeah.
Acheki.
Yeah.
So now because I think hapo ndio level yake nini ilifika afu nikakam nikafind out like later in life I think education need to change because one of the things nimenotice ni things that people struggle with in school they never struggle with in real life.
In life, yeah.
Because she notice multiplication saizi enda ununue mayai tatu kutoka they'll do
Unakatu
the
hivi,
maths.
there's the exact same thing. Yeah.
Alafu the example I normally give is algebra. Like algebra the way it's taught in school,
Yeah.
it's like this strange thing.
Yes.
But I feel like algebra is the one thing that we use the most.
Kabisa.
Ukiingia kwa supermarket 2 loaves of bread and 1 milk,
Yes.
that's algebra.
Yes.
But you see the way it's taught in school, it's 2x plus 3y.
No.
Now kids will never.
So
napata place kama Finland, I don't know kama umefuatilia Finland, inasemekana they're changing the whole school system. But in Finland they don't do subjects.
Right.
They do the holistic approach.
Right. So
And
it's
once you know how
disciplines,
it happens,
more of disciplines than it is. Yeah.
Yes. So what you're taught history and math in the same class. I don't know how that works, but
It works. I can totally see the idea for it because a lot of these subjects, when you look at them, they are enmeshed. When you go deeper into just like scholarly, when you dig into it scholarly, you find that these things are not as different because music has a lot of math. Basically, even if you to describe physics in the simplest way, if you're to describe it to a dummy,
yes.
you'd say that everything sings. It's all about frequencies and sijui valence, whatever, protons, electrons, neutrons. Quite literally, it's it's everything sings. So you can I can see how that works. Yeah.
Okay. So mko hapa inaitwa Nakuru.
Sasa.
How does a 10-year-old remember post-election violence? Because does a 10-year-old know how much what tribalism means? Because I have some untold stories and I plan to give this story on because kuna watu usikiaga I've given people all the stories.
Yeah.
I sat down majuzi and I was like, there's one story I've never given people.
Yeah.
Like how I came to experience tribalism. It happened much earlier than it should have. Unajua ile kuface ile thing like, oh shit, you know what? I'm Luo.
Yeah.
And Luos, when they're adults, they don't circumcise. I'm a small kid.
Yeah.
That's not supposed to be a concern.
At all.
But nilibaki nimeilan come to you, but nilisema hii ni story for the
Msee
Mwafrika
akisha
podcast.
kuita kehe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hiyo ni story for hiyo podcast. So nilikuwa nataka kujua as a 10-year-old because uko 10 years your time. How post-election ilianzaje and how long did it take before mtoke Nakuru?
So you know, and this is a thing you've asked a question which I've thought about it, but I've never really found the words to vocalize it. Tribalism will take more than us saying we are tribeless.
Yes.
It will take way more than that. Tukae chini and do collective healing. Because the first instance I experienced tribalism is how my mom lost her job at that company that she was working at. So normally mtoi wako akiwa anacheza na mabeshte zake akirudi home tuseme amepigwa huko nje atasema nani amenipiga. But for my mom it was a group that was out to get her.
Yeah.
And unfortunately all of them are from the same tribe. So when my mom recalls the story, when I was hearing it as a child, it was mazee wale wanini waliniharibia kazi. And then it doesn't help that the plotting was happening in like a different language. And then eventually that's what you need. So it's the first time I see it and I'm like, oh man, this is really bad. I don't like it. And then now, as you've said, and that's why I've always been really fluid about even my tribal identity because this is now leading into 207.
Yeah.
So I think Hajobo is spoiled in 206. There was a thing, and I don't know why I don't hear people talking about it, but there was like, by the time 207 was happening, you could see it coming. There was very heavy tribal, not even in the offices, in what, there are certain people from certain tribes who've just felt like if we are here, and I don't know if that was the same, but us Naks, we were surrounded by Kikuyus at the time. And it felt as though there was like a cleanse of sorts. And where we lived, at the time, there was like a very active Mungiki
presence.
Yes, kabisa. And I've never thought of talking about this. I've never talked about it in public, but I know it in my head when I do that analysis. And I consistently it's a thing which it's the argument I make for ending tribalism when I talk about, and I've never really said it was my mom, but that really hurt me. That when she felt like, oh, you know, it was just the people that she was working with, threw her under the bus. But I was like, I kept on telling my friends, ukinikosea ndasema mwaf ni mtu mbaya. Yeah, but you know, when you get for the older generation, they'll be like, wale wa Kikuyu, wale wa Kisii, wale wa Kaleni wasa wabaya. So by the time that's happening, then now we get into 2007. Raila has vied. And you remember how so my dad, I think, was an agent. So I was very aware politically. In my head, first of all, I wanted Kalonzo to win 2007, and my dad was like, oh, Kalonzo cannot win, he's still like a very fresh person. But I just thought Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, I was like, what a name. Unasikia ni wakili. God damn it. Anyways, so now when he'd do his errands, when he'd come to Nairobi, I would get into the car. Then the election is rigged, because I believe 2007 was rigged. Even though it was rushed, ECK at the time, stima imepotea, messed up. So after that happens, that finds us in Nairobi. We are supposed to go back to the family. I remember my dad telling me, usiseme jina yako na usiniite, ukiulizwa jina ya dad ni nini, unasema hizi zingine tofauti.
So okay, wacha ndirewind hapo. Buddha alikuwa agent wapi? Nairobi?
Yes.
So mlikuwa Nairobi when it's happening?
Mimi na dad tulikuwa tumekam Nairobi kuishi na one of our relatives, but pamoja in Nakuru. Yes. So ako like, usiseme jina. Mtu atakikuuliza lugha usema tu uongei, those kinds of things. And so then now in the night, one time I remember it was 3 a.m. And back then my phones hazikuwa smartphones. So napigiwa. And we always consistently had like people who were looking out for us. Called my mom and they're like, Mungiki wako na mkutano, tafadhali wajaluo tokeni hapa.
Sasa ni Nakuru sasa?
Yes, Nakuru. So now tukatoka hiyo place tulikuwa, then tukaenda kujificha place fulani inaitwa Mawanga.
Isa na kurudisha hapo.
No worries, let's just go back.
What I'm trying to understand is how does your mother explain to a 10-year-old that the reason why tunatoka hapa ni juu we speak a different language?
Nilikuwa Kierere.
This is because unajua kile switch kwa hizi vitu, like when we are adults we never know that this shit is imprinted when we are kids. So mliamwaje, like unajua nyinyi ni Wajaluo, unachiki ule best yako, that best friend of yours, because I'm sure you had some Kikuyu best friends. Like maybe moja niko naitwa
kina Nganga.
So unaambwa you're different from Nganga because you speak different language. And now kuna mtu atakuja kukuua you speak a different. How was that explained to nyinyi?
I think one, you would feel the danger because you would see how stressful it was for my folks. But also at the point, the people who I would want to know, either if they knew or they were clueless, were my younger siblings. Because mimi nilikuwa at the point, I was already reading very, very heavy literature. So I knew that, I didn't know it in depth, but I knew that this was a thing. And so it didn't need much explanation because ulikuwa like, unaona nani aliuliwa. So there was live examples of people who once were, and them they had already been killed. So yeah, I also didn't necessarily think too much about it because I was afraid. So you didn't need to understand. You're just like, oh, it's dangerous, but you could hear the adults talking and you'd eavesdrop to like, wametuambia itakuwa hivi. So Toeni, even the Luo people that they knew and whatnot, and those are the tribes that were kind of undesirable, kaenda your side.
So mkenda place ndio
Mawanga. Kwa huko ndani unaingia uko Nakuru bado, ukiingia hivyo section 58 tunatoka hivyo Kiti, tukatoka Kiti na sasa tukaenda kujificha side.
Kwa nini mlifeel place ni safe?
Ilikuwa na wasee, ilikuwa na wajaka kadhaa. Ilikuwa more metropolitan, if I may. Ilikuwa Sudi. Also there was another thing that was really traumatic that I saw. I saw ethnic clashes between Wasudi. This one time niliona tu waliingia kwa field na wakaanza kupigana, wakaangushana kwa miba. So niliona hiyo kitu as a child, nikaka hivi nikasema mimi
like maybe Dinka and
like Nuer and what not. Nikaka hivi nikasema mimi sitaki kuona kitu kama hii tena. Kabisa. And then now after that, there's a friend that my mom had made alikuwa naitwa Mama Kiplish. Mama Kiplish sasa akatuambia tuende kwake Elda Maravin. Pack tu kila kitu kwa lori. Budangu kwanza came later because also wasa walikuwa wanachomea manyumba. And I don't even know like at what point did we get yenye unaweza come tu nichome nyumba ya mwa.
Najua, I understand. I always understand both sides. I understand the tribal side and I understand the way I understand the tribal side is Kenya's history has been, I always say, romanticized. So we are told about how the white man came to Kenya and then we chased away the white man. Well, the reality is Kenya did not exist. So the white man came and started a company, the British East African Company.
Yes, Ibeco.
Yes. Na hii British East African Company ndio iliend up dividiwa. So hizi zilikuwa like economic sectors. So mtu akitengeneza Kenya akiambia Wajaka, Waluya, Wakale, Wakikuyu mtaishi pamoja, yende alidecide. We did not decide.
Right.
So that means that it's going to take more effort to unite us than the British or the English. Because the English decided this is us. We start from here to here. The French decided it. Sisi hatu could decide. So it's going to take some time. And then when you look at what Moi did, where Moi alifanya power ikakua, like your people become super rich. So now we ended up with the Biwots of this world. Now people would associate that with that. So for Akikuyu in 2007, you're like, because you know pia Kibaki had really done well economically. The only his Achilles heel ilikuwa tribalism. He was not able, like all tribes brought him into power. But when it was time to assign the seats, he didn't balance
that's why we had like those G42 versus one.
So now I understand why that Kikuyu is angry. Like, my life has changed. This is a very good president. What the fuck do you mean that he should leave? So I understand your side. So Musa Maga, like, kuna time tunakuanga like, tribalism is stupid. No, you have to understand the context. Like, this is how it started. How do we change that? Some of the most tribal people are Europeans. That's why European countries are very small. Like, most countries are. Like England ni dogo. England is so small that kuna watu semagawa like one of the wonders of the world is how this language is spoken by
kila pahali.
Na country yenyewe ni ndogo, inaweza fit Kenya I think mara 4. I think even more than mara 4. England is small. So mi naelewa. So Mawanga mkatoka Mawanga mkenda
Elda Maravin.
Elda Maravin, which tribe dominates it? Wakale. So that felt safe at that point. Okay.
Kakana Wakale, nikalan Kikale kiasi, nikalan your tradition, nilipenda because I've always also been really curious. Then after Ravin, and then now we moved to Magadi Soda.
Okay, so Ravin ulienda chuo at any point ama time yote kwa out of school?
Time yote tukuenda shule.
Na ulikuwa which class by elections ina happen?
5.
Ulikuwa umeskip one class instead of because 5 unafaa kwa 11.
Class 5 6 there.
Okay. Then Elda Maravin each time mother and apply for jobs. So then she gets the Magadi
job uko Magadi Soda company.
Still as an accountant.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. So now you have to move. Kubeba kila kitu tena. Lori tena. How big?
That Magadi Soda was it had 1 bedroom. It had like a split thing so the kids could sleep. Could call it technically 2.
Okay, true. Okay.
But
and how many kids are you at this point?
Sasa tuko full house sasa 5.
Mko 5.
Tuko 5 tunaingia kila mtu asha arrive.
Alafu as an adult mtu ushindagwa. Hata yuko anatengeneza saa ngapi?
Because unaka hivi
hii kitu ilikuwa so small.
Na nyinyi mlitoka wapi?
Like as unashinda okay ile happen aje. So now uko chuo ulikuwa unaenda chuo gani?
Sasa nilienda Magadi Primary. This is where now ulifanya class 8 ama? Magadi Primary nilifanya class 6 and class 7.
Okay. Class 8 ukenda?
Class 8 nikaenda place inaitwa Carol Academy. Kaenda interview. There was a very good school in Nakuru. I don't know who linked my dad up with the school. Akaambiwa anasikia tu kuna shule hapo hivyo.
Boarding.
Yes, sasa nikaenda boarding.
Okay.
Class 6 I did class 6 in Magadi. Then class 7 I think I did 3rd term in Carol Academy 7 and 8. Or I did class 7 and 8 the whole thing. I don't remember very well.
Okay. So e-boarding, your parents are paying for it?
Yes, my parents are paying for it. Did I get a partial scholarship?
Because I knew something that used to happen back in the days is private schools would sponsor
yes
kids
bright
could
kids
perform.
yes
Yeah.
yes yes,
So,
yes.
yako iko
I think
hivyo?
nilikula hiyo kitu kiasi
Okay.
because ingekuwa ngumu for au kuiafford yote but whether, I don't know again najua that's the other thing but folks did so well to shield us from the economic stress so mlikuwa mnajua iko but hawakuwa wanatuonyesha ati unajua mimi ndio niko na hii pesa mimi niko na hiyo pesa even though yes we knew it was my mom was working it didn't feel as though sijui our dad was smaller or whatever they didn't rub it in our faces that we sasa shika hii pocket money or whatever
okay and hii time nini mkiwa place kama Magadi what does your dad do during the day when
he did a lot of teaching and did do some business. I think he also did some small business things. Yeah.
So carols kutoka hapo ndio
nikaadmitiwa Alliance sasa.
Alliance. Okay.
Mi Carol niliandika shule moja. Nikutana na msi fulani anaitwa Patroba. Wakili siku hizi. He gave such a story for defiance. Alikuwa anaambia you Karao akaniambia nifanye nini ni pick paper aka snap cuz Karao used to snap in bush kijana. Nini aka defy mbaya. Akasema Bush, your Bush ndio nataka. Then I didn't even know Bush was Alliance. So for class 7, then nikauliza Bush ni nini? Alliance. Time tulikuwa tuna apply nikaandika tu hiyo shule peke yake. Kasema huyu akona kiburi nini. But nilienda.
Okay. So acha tuponge juu Alliance High School. Itongo AHS.
The AHS baba.